We're at the Oklahoma Coaches Association Clinic at Cherokee Hills Golf Course, where Jared Reese is about to go out and brave the 150-degree temperatures today. Are you excited for the tournament?
I'm pretty excited. I'm just trying to shoot under what the temperature is kind of the goal today.
Michael Swisher said you putt out of bunkers. I don't know how that works. Is that true?
Not well.
So you putt left-handed and swing right-handed?
That's true.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what? I can't be mad at that because I play pool left-handed. This is how I learned, but I do everything else right-handed. So there's some things that
So what happened there is I always played baseball left-handed.
Uh-huh.
Started playing golf, and I was just awful.
Right.
So I had to coach golf, even though I was awful at it when I was back at Blackwell. And I grabbed a right-handed club one time, and it went straight. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to start playing right-handed.
Okay.
But all the field shots feel a lot better left-handed, so I go ahead and putt that way. So
okay. Well, at least that club you don't have to have a left-handed, right-handed set of clubs in your bag.
No, just one club. And I should chip left-handed, but since I don't, I putt a lot from off the green. So
I was reading an article on the internet that said it was a tough choice for you to leave Blackwell, which is both our hometown, to go to Kingfisher to coach basketball. Now, is it really a tough choice, or is that just what you said?
It seems crazy now, but at the time it was. I mean,
You had a good
we
team.
really had it rolling, and it was kind of where I was from, and I was going to be good for a few more years. So it was tough at the time, but looking back, it seems like a dumb conversation, but we never know how things are going to work out.
No, that's exactly right. So when you got to Kingfisher, you had a pretty good coaching staff. Coach Green came on board with you, and then Coach Combs was already there. And you guys, you've got a great staff. Those guys have to help you out a lot.
Yes. So when I got there, Coach Combs was the girls' coach, and Coach Green wasn't there yet. So it's kind of evolved into, after about 2 or 3 years, I got Coach Combs, and then a year later, Coach Green came over. So, yes, they're both been head coaches. You know, we just really complement each other really well.
Right.
Some of our weaknesses are each other's strengths.
All right.
So.
How do you delegate practice like that?
Because they have so much experience, they have a bunch of responsibility. I mean, they're in charge of a lot of things. There's big portions of our practice where they both have a drill going on, and I kind of get to roam back and forth. And most coaches at our level don't have that luxury.
Right.
So, and they also, during games, Chris does really well with scouting. He's very involved in what the other team's doing. Danny is in charge of substitutions. So most of the time, if you see a sub up there, Danny has decided on that. Now, sometimes I overrule it, but most of the time we just let him take care of that.
Were you surprised at how last year's team reacted after losing such good players off the team in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it was we had everybody was new, so no one had really played. Now, we knew they were going to be good because we'd seen them play and we'd put them in some varsity tournaments, but I don't think we thought the expectation was state championship. But, the mind is a funny thing. I mean, they think they're supposed to win, and they just kind of kept winning, and that's just what they thought they were supposed to do.
Yeah, you had a heck of a run in the championship game where you guys were down to a really talented team, and it all kind of stems from defense, which is one of your calling cards.
Yeah, this year we pressed this year, which was something we'd never done, and the reason we did that is because we had about 9 guys that were pretty even players, so we just – although we weren't that much more athletic than anybody, we had a lot of guys that were equal, so we would kind of wear the other team out. And in that championship game, we had pressed the whole game and not had much success. And then early in the fourth quarter, they turned it over 2 or 3 times right underneath the basket. So that was kind of the difference in the game.
How do you feel about a shot clock?
Oh, I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there's times that I would like it. I mean, but we've been very successful not having one. I mean, we've been really good at holding the basketball.
Why change?
And, I mean, I think it has its benefits both ways. I mean, I say I don't like it, but we're really good defensively. And I think if we had one, we'd be even better because we wouldn't have to guard as long. But I don't like it because I just think it gives teams – not having it gives lesser teams a chance. And coaching some lesser teams earlier in my coaching career –
right.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing the ball in the best player's hand at the end of with 10 seconds going 1-on-5 every time, which is what the shot clock would probably end up being.
How have you spent your summer?
We went to UCO and went to OU team camp. I also my wife's from North Dakota, so we went there for a couple weeks and hung out with her family. So that's pretty much it.
Did you learn anything in North Dakota that you didn't know? I mean, how many times? You've probably been there quite often.
Yeah, we go there every summer. there's just not a lot. It's a pretty simple life. I mean, she lives about an hour and a half from a Walmart. So it's and she lives right in the middle of the state. So.
It's good that you go in the summer because you don't want to be there in the winter. I know it can be hot up there at that time.
Yeah, we've been there at Christmas time too, and it's interesting.
Okay,
so.
There's a couple questions I prepped you on this. One I haven't prepped you on, but who's the best basketball player ever at Blackwell?
Well, of course it's me. I mean, if I'm answering that, if I get the mic,
I told you it should be you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean we got a couple of other Blackwell guys in here that might be able to. Hey, Elbert Urban was a big dude, 6'7". Yeah. You probably knew Lyman, his son, right?
Yeah.
Elbert led him to the state championship game.
Yeah.
I mean he played at Wichita State, I think, so he might have a pretty good argument.
He might.
I was saving that one for you,
but he doesn't have the mic, so.
No, he doesn't. No, you might be my vote. The second, when you go home, where's your favorite place to eat? It doesn't have to be Blackwell. It could be Ponca City.
Los Patros I love it.
All right.
And then if you're going to Ponca, Rusty Barrel is hard to beat.
Rusty Barrel is fantastic. I had Los Potros for I think it was Mother's Day, but the place was jam-packed.
Yeah, it's great. And they've kind of branched off. They got different restaurants
everywhere,
all over, and they're really good.
Okay,
so.
Good stuff. Well, I'll let you get out there and golf.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jared.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
See you.
Dr. Matt Dieselhorst at Dieselhorst Sports and Orthopedics can help you get game day ready. Dr. Dieselhorst works with athletes of all ages, taking a coordinated approach to accelerate return to play and maximize athletic performance. His work with pros in sports training, injury prevention, bracing, functional rehabilitation, and imaging works seamlessly with his medical and surgical expertise. Get started by going to Dieselhorst Sports and Orthopedics. Let Dr. Matt Dieselhorst get you back on the field, backing all Oklahoma athletes on the field and off.
We're back here on Keeping Skordle with all-time winningest head football coach in Oklahoma history, Mike Snyder of Seminole, getting ready for year 43.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 51st total.
Yeah.
Yeah, 43 a head coach, huh?
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good run.
That has not been bad. I mean, who would ever thought in 1972 that I would be in this position right now, and it's just been an amazing ride.
379 is the win total. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
yes,
is 400 a number right there that you might be interested in, or?
I think it would be. I think odd people keep asking me how much longer I'm going to go, and my health is still good. We've got some good kids. We'll struggle a little bit here for the next couple of years, but I think you still have to have a passion to get up every morning to do something. So many people retire and then lose a passion to do anything. Every coach I've ever talked to who has retired a little early wishes they had not retired. So everybody tells me make sure that I'm ready to retire, and I don't know where I am at yet.
Right. You guys went through a transition where you were even having school in a grocery store for a while, but your new school looks facilities are pretty nice.
Yeah, I thought our community gathered together there, and we passed a bond and built a really nice school out on the highway, and got a really nice gym there, and we've got a lot of classrooms there so we can grow. But it is a very nice school, and we're very proud of what we. That building, the old building, was built in 1929. Probably one of the greatest architectural buildings you'll ever see in a high school building, but it's still standing and still there. It was a building that was very dear to me because I spent so much time in that, and it was just a building that just grew on you, and something that you do not want to see go away because there's much tradition that has gone through that school.
And the field is iconic in and of itself. So I was glad to see that, and I'm sure there wasn't any discussion of doing otherwise, but to stay and play right there at the old high school instead of building a new facility, right?
Right. If they build another one, I hope it's gone. I'm gone, okay? But we have a facility that has so much tradition there, from the the first football game, it was not played at that stadium, but the first football game played at Seminole High School was 1912. Mm-hmm. And then we started playing in that stadium later in the 20s and 30s, and then they added, there was just one side, there was just the east side, and then they added the west side, and the way, in my research, the way they got that built is the underneath of the stadium was the ag department. And they actually slaughtered some animals up under there, and
wow.
And that's at some point in time in the late 50s and early 60s, they turned all of that into dressing rooms. So that's where our dressing rooms are, underneath there where all the ag was at one time.
No, that's cool. And,
Yeah.
and there's a few of those stadiums left that were WPA projects.
Yes.
Like Holdenville, where you're from,
Yes.
is another one that's
It
also
was.
pretty.
Anito Stadium.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool there too. And you told me this year that you're going to, for the first time, coach a grandson of a player that you had coached.
Yeah,
right?
this is the first one that is going to graduate. I've coached a couple that didn't finish, but
right.
This young man, his grandpa was Curtis Morgan, and played on our 1977 state championship team. His son played on our 2002 state runner-up team. Now his son Tyler's son is now getting ready to graduate as a senior, and I've coached some kids that I taught, their grandkids, but this is the first one that's really come through that has played.
Yeah, you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to too much, but the private school, public school battle seems to be really focused on 3A. There's a lot of really good programs in that spot. Is there a good solution for that situation?
Well, that's a good question. Is there a solution? I think there is, and we've presented a solution that when the private schools they play in the district, and then when it comes to playoffs, they divide off right there, and they have a private playoff championship, and you have a public. And we've presented that to the private schools, and I'm on a committee that has done that. And so we're still working on that, but it is. Boy, there's a log jam in 3A right now. You look at – I'm not sure when a public education school is going to win another one in Class 3A with those guys in there right now, the success they're having.
Yep, Hall and Lincoln Christian have met in the finals the last 2 years, and it does seem like up and down. Would that – and I'm not real familiar with that proposal, but would that span from 4A to 2A, or how would that work? That would
go into I think there's 5A, there's only Tulsa, Kelly, and Bishop,
right.
Okay? And 4A, I'm not sure if there is one, okay? But you would provide some of those 3A schools would play Bishop, McGinnis, and Kelly.
Okay, so they would all be
right.
Everybody would be involved.
I think the way we divided that, there would be 3 classes.
Okay,
of private schools.
Yeah,
right.
You told me that one of your favorite hobbies is to travel and see big college games.
I do.
And stadiums.
Yes.
So, what do you have a plan this year to go someplace?
Well, I've got my wife and I want to go to LSU or Clemson this year.
Okay.
Okay. Man, we have gone to Army, Navy. Alabama, Auburn, went to Michigan, Ohio State this past year to the Big House. That was pretty amazing right there. So we have been very fortunate to be able to do that, and I actually went to the Poppy White, who was playing in Canada, a kid that played for us. So I went to the Grey Cup game this last year. Flew up to Canada and watched it. So we love to travel. We love to go to events. When Poppy White was playing at Ohio his senior year, it was Thanksgiving weekend, and they played on Friday. So we drove up to watch Ohio play, and then OU was playing in West Virginia that Saturday. So we drove over to West Virginia and watched that big ball game with OU in West Virginia that weekend. So I was not afraid to drive somewhere and go, but we do have some other places that we'd love to go to.
What's been the best atmosphere so far? I'm sure all of those are rated about the same.
Yeah, I would think that I'm going to tell you something. The Ohio State-Michigan game, the atmosphere, the game itself, the atmosphere during the game was the best I've ever been in. The Army-Navy game, the pregame was probably the best I've ever seen. You see the big full bird colonels out there in the parking lot, and they're tailgating and they're drinking a lot of the whiskey. So that's that was pretty amazing to watch those guys. And then when the cadets march in is pretty amazing. So that atmosphere, those two atmospheres right there. Now, the game itself was a little anticlimactic at the Army-Navy game, but the Michigan-Ohio State game lived up to the expectations there. And what was the funny thing about that is it was just my wife and I was going to go. My wife got sick. So my son so I took my son, but my grandson weaseled his way in there, and we only had 2 tickets. But we found a way to slip in one. And
nice.
Yeah, and so there's 3 of us got in on 2 tickets. Not a bad deal.
No, that's pretty good. Yeah. What's your favorite place? I'm sure you've been to many of these conventions and clinics. What's your favorite place to eat when you come up here to Tulsa?
Boy, I tell you what, we've become big fans of the White River Fish Market. Well, I tell you what, they've got some good fish. I ate there last night. And there's a few steakhouses we go to. But like I said, Tulsa I was sitting over thinking, this is my 51st clinic to attend. And, boy, I've seen a lot of changes. No one had really, if you did not go to the clinic at the old Camelot Inn in Tulsa, you'd have no idea what you missed during those times. But, we eat a lot of steak places, seafood, and may try a Brazilian steakhouse tonight. So we try a few different things each year.
Yeah, you got to go light on the food the rest of the day.
Yeah, exactly right.
My mom and dad's wedding reception was at the Camelot Inn.
Yeah, exactly. So, how neat's that,
yeah,
huh?
It's been a while.
Yeah, that has been
good.
a while. That was a classic place.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, hey, I appreciate you
Yes,
stopping
sir.
by, Mike. I talked
Thank
to you
you.
all day,
All right.
but I appreciate your time and wish you best of luck this
Thank
year.
you, man. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
Is it time for your school or business to purchase a new phone system? Give the experts at Versatile Networks a call. In most cases, we can provide a phone system with brand new phones for less than your current monthly bill. Call us for a free quote today.
We're back on Keeping Skordle with Brad Beller, the head coach of the Washington Warriors. This is year number 13 for you at Washington, which is your alma mater.
Yep.
You coached 2 years at Lexington, is that right?
That's
Two,
right.
and then they said, hey, probably Coach McCray reached out and said, like for you to come coach?
He did, and I think there were still like 18 teachers that I had that were still in the middle school and high school, so easy transition for the most part. I was Brad to a lot of people, but then I got into Coach Beller later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was good.
Hey, what's you played in the program, and Coach Schneeberger was there before Coach McCray, I think since 1987 or something like that. So only 3 coaches for a long period of time. What makes it such a good job?
Really the community support. You don't have to worry about kids being where they need to be when they need to be. Football is important. You've been to Washington.
Yeah.
There's not – if you get south of Norman and you get into our community, there's really nothing else to do on a Friday night if you're going to be in the community other than come and watch high school football. So, the community's always there, our facilities and everything that the community pitched in and built, several years back shows the type of support our community does for not only me, but the football program, the school in general, and then the kids. That's the number one thing. The kids that we have at Washington are just genuinely good kids. I think a lot of coaches say that, but I really feel that way about the kids because they do so much. It's a small school, it's growing, but they stay so involved in so many sports and work so hard for all the sports that they're involved in. It's just a great place.
Yeah, Kevin Wilson asked me when he came to OU after a couple of years, got to know him pretty well, and he said, hey, where's a couple places I can go watch a high school game that's a good atmosphere, not just, and I told him to go Purcell. The field is great, and I said, go to Washington because the atmosphere is great, and he loved both places. So, and I came last year to your home opener. It's like a carnival. I mean, you got everything going on. It was crazy.
It is.
I couldn't get a seat. I mean, so I had to stand on the corner of the end zone by the burgers.
Yeah, I think we're growing so fast too that little field, the fence around it kind of keeps everything tight. The stadiums, there's no track around it or anything. So, like you said, there's kids everywhere, and it really is a great environment to watch a high school football game. When I was at Lexington, I used to tell people, we need to go over and watch them play, and it has nothing to do with me going to my alma mater. It was just the feeling of that, and especially getting into playoff time where we play Purcell or Lindsay, one of our big-time rivals, and all of a sudden, they just come out in droves and make a really good environment and culture for our kids to get to play in.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. You got an indoor facility too, right? Is it 80 yards or 100 yards?
It's actually 65.
Okay.
It's 65. It's from hash to sideline on both sides is regulation. Mm-hmm. It's a little squeezed in. It's not quite regulation width, but we can do anything and everything in there. We use it more probably in off season than we do during the season. But our kids are so lucky to have that because once for training purposes or heat purposes or anything like that, we can get out of the sun. And a lot of these schools are struggling with the heat index being so high that they might not get to practice. They might have to change their practice schedule. We don't have to do that.
Right. What I like a lot about small town high school football is the fact that you don't have a lot of specialization. Your kids play a lot of sports, which helps. I mean, and it's not, you don't ask them in the summertime to just concentrate on one thing. I'm sure everybody kind of goes their different ways, but it's worked out really well for the athletic department because you guys are strong across the board in both men's and girls sports.
Yeah, it's amazing when we do our summer pride. We will have 85 males, we will have 75 junior high boys, and then we'll have close to 100 females, junior high and high school girls combined. And so, and it's for all athletics. And to see all the coaches unifying that, share their athletes during the summer, share their athletes during the year, truly, genuinely root for one another to be successful, because that success just generates, year after year. And I really think that that's why we stayed so consistent in all of our sports. Last year, softball wins both spring and fall state championships. Baseball wins the state championship. We've turned into the Buffalo Bills, losing 3 out of the last 5. So, but it's been a great programs. And when I say programs, it's a true athletic program in what our kids have been able to pull off.
Do you like the changes in Class 2A in the division? You're moving up, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
you're not going to be in that classification much longer.
For high school football in the smaller classes, when you start looking at enrollment. And in 2A, for example, last year you covered our Marlowe-Washington game. Well, Marlowe trots out freshman through senior last year, 80-some kids. We're trotting out 63.
Right. You've got a big number.
We have a big number.
Yeah, but 80 was an incredibly big number.
And then you start looking at some of these smaller schools. Stratford a few years ago is a prime example. They go into Class A, from Class A state champion to 2A. Well, their numbers, enrollment and in playing was more Class A numbers. And they were still a great program, but from the top of 2A to the bottom of 2A, there's such a discrepancy, and even more probably so in A. And so in order to save those programs for the time being, I think it's the best thing for high school football in Oklahoma to save these programs and to get these programs back up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Also, you played Metro the year before that. Private school, public school, is there a good way to try to sort out that situation?
I think we would all love to see, whether it's a multiplier, that I think it was Prop 14 that they looked at several years back, something like that. For us in the Washington program, I think we went back and looked at the public-private school deal. We're 22-3 against private schools, and those 3 losses are to Metro,
Wow.
3 straight years. So is there a potential issue? Yeah, I mean, that even goes up into the state. What happens with the voucher system? There are so many other variables to just football or basketball or the sports. But I wish there was some kind of multiplier, because a public school pulling in from the district, and then a private school, just take Metro sitting where it sits in its location in Tulsa, they can draw easier than what we can. And I'm coming from Washington, where there is a draw from Norman,
Sure,
into Washington. So, but the people still have to enroll and move into Washington. We don't take transfers to be able to get into our system. So even with us getting as many move-ins as we is, there's still a difference in that. But more than anything, maybe a multiplier. I know that everyone wants the separation, complete separation. I think we're too far gone, maybe,
right,
to make that. But it's still a really, I think we're still a long ways away. And some of these adjustments that we've made the last couple of years from the OFBCA is to maybe try to alleviate that with some of the smaller schools, especially. You
22-3. You're about that against everybody, no matter what you say or you draw up there. I mean, what do you think eventually is the cap for Washington? I mean, you've seen schools like Piedmont and Deer Creek really, really grow. I know that there's some fantastic developments just south of Norman out there that people are moving into. So what's the Washington School District capability of expanding?
I really think we're going to be I think 2008 is when we went to 2A, from Class A to 2A. And now you're talking probably 2024 we're going to be – it's going to probably be half of that to time in 3A before we go to 4A. I think that we'll grow at that point.
Right.
As long as the economy and everything, I know it's kind of shaky, but it really hasn't slowed the growth of Washington down, even with all the unsettled times. So I really do think that there's going to be a growth that is greater than what we've even seen over the last 10, 12 years. I think the next 10 years is going to be 8 to 10 years. I could see us being maybe not quite Blanchard, but close to a Blanchard as far as in size.
Yeah, you been to the Pryor's Pizza Kitchen?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty fantastic place, huh?
It's not good for my waistline. I live about 1.5 miles from Pryor's, so
yeah.
I'm there all the time.
Well, I'll have to get down there and see you sometime.
Yes, sir.
Where's your go-to place to eat here at the clinic?
If I go to the clinic, we have – I don't know if there's a go-to with our staff. Coach Colbeth is our defense coordinator, head baseball coach. He usually picks.
Yeah.
And so and he does a good job. We've been to Burnco. I think there's is it Catfish Daddies or Fry Daddies or something on the Broken Arrow area. So we've been to quite a few of them. So
that's
not
good.
necessarily a go-to.
What about at home?
I got to give props to Libby's because it's right there.
Yeah.
And then absolutely love Pryor's. And then when I go into Norman, if I'm looking for something fast, Mo Betta's. I don't know if
it's brand new.
Oh, I've been there way too much on that as well. So
yeah, it's kind of like the Qdoba of Hawaiian food.
It is.
I thought it was pretty good. So
Yeah.
I think that's good. You got enough players coming back to think that you guys will be right there again, have a chance to win.
We do. Losing Luke Hendricks and Kobe Scott, Lane Steele, Lane Spalding, Rope Scott. There were some really good. Reese Stevens. That was our defensive backfield. Three, if not four, of those guys have been our defensive backfield for 3 or 4 years. So that's the concern: is how fast can our younger guys? We have capable bodies go into the secondary. Our front seven is all intact, but one guy from last year. That was our leading tackler, Lane Spalding. And then on offense, you lose Kobe Scott and you lose Luke Hendricks, which were deep threats. Marlowe did a great job of handling them in the state championship game, but big threats for 15 straight weeks. But we're going to look different. I think we're still going to be really good offensively. We have 2 tight ends. Steven Alexander's son actually moved from Norman to Washington. He's going to be a junior. And then Nate Roberts is a big-time player for us. He's already had some Power 5 offers. Is going to be another tight end. So you're going to go from spread to now you're going to see more 2 tight. We'll also flex those guys out, maybe 1 tight end, an H-back. So I still think we have a lot of weapons. But, the biggest thing is our offensive line, Major Cantrell at quarterback, and then Cole Scott, the running back. He was 1,900 yards and change, last year as our running back. So having that nucleus back is going to be big.
I felt for him, man, in the title game last year because he ran so hard and he played so well and then had a fumble at the end of the game. So where's his head mentally and how you had to kind of work with him to say, look, things happen sometimes, but, he is clearly one of the better players in your class.
He is. And with him, I feel so bad because he fumbled one time week 2, and that was it. And we wouldn't have even scored the touchdowns and the points we were scored in the title game without him. And but he comes, you worry. I mean, you really worry about a kid being that close, about the 30-yard line going in to win the state championship, fumbling. And there has been no motivation for me this offseason. He has been it. And he has worked his tail off. He even had a stress fracture in his foot, wouldn't tell anybody about, ran in the state track meet. We knew he was struggling. And we finished 3rd in the state track meet in the 4x1, and he was our leadoff leg with a stress fracture. He has worked himself so hard, and everyone has followed. He's not the most vocal guy, but everyone's followed his lead, and the way that he handled it almost made him, even if he would have scored that touchdown, we would have won the state championship. That was great. But the respect that he's gained from our team and our community, I can't say enough about how he handled it.
I'd love to hear that. Last question for me. You guys always schedule tough. You got some good non-district games this year.
We do.
Yeah.
We're going to Vian.
Yeah.
Week 0, so it'll probably be 115 degrees out there.
That's another pretty cool stadium they got there.
Great stadium, great environment. What's crazy is as successful as both teams have been, we've never met in the playoffs. So we wanted to make that work. I think both administrations wanted to make that work, and we pulled that off. We turn around, we go back home against Sulphur, which is always a 3A, playoff, perennial powerhouse. And then we turn around and go to Jones, which has been our playoffs the last 2 years. We've seen them in the second round. So, and then we turn around and get Frederick and CCS that are 2 playoff teams.
Coach Tyler's scouting you out right here, right now.
He is,
right.
and he's done an amazing job. And our district's tough.
Yeah.
And so start out with Frederick and then and then go to CCS. Is 2 tough district matchups. So hopefully our non-district will get us prepared for that.
I love, and if you're in Class 2A or Class A, I think a lot of coaches should work on this, is schedule a game that you got to be on the bus for a long time in case you have to do it in the playoffs, because the home field advantage in that third round is so critical. I mean, if you travel on the bus a long way, it's hard to keep your team fresh, you know.
It is. We went to Rejoice last year, Christian, in the quarters, and the year before we went to Adair. So we wanted that, you know, and to deal with even the heat, trying to go, you know, get acclimated to the heat and being on those yellow buses that the Class 2A schools have to take. It's well worth the experience of what you learn on those long road trips.
Yeah, I agree. Brad, thanks for dropping by,
Yes,
man.
sir,
Always
you.
good to talk to you.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
At Maples Nixon Diesel Horse, we've helped a lot of people, and our goal was to treat each and every person like a friend. And as a friend, we've got your back always. We understand what you're going through. Being lawyers is what we do, but it's not all that we are. We care. We'll stand beside you throughout the entire legal process, not just as lawyers, but as your friends. We are Maples Nixon Diesel Horse, and we are here to help.
All right, we're back. Keeping Skordle with Loren Montgomery, head coach of the Bixby Spartans, who have won 49 consecutive games. You've been doing press junkets and things this year. You're going to open the season in is it the Battle of the Burbs?
Battle of the Burbs,
Battle of the Burbs,
that's
that's what they're calling. So you're not afraid of a challenge. So win number 50 would be Owasso, if that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we got a pretty cool home opener against Owasso. Obviously, that's
is it at Bixby?
Well, it's at University of Tulsa's H.A. Chapman
All right.
Stadium. It's a matchup a lot of folks have wanted to see, and kind of taking it to another level. We've gotten some sponsorship from Quick Trip locally, and University of Tulsa has agreed to a 2-year deal to host that thing. And so we're pretty excited about getting to play a game of such magnitude, not only for both programs, but for the city of Tulsa. I think it just kind of, further magnifies the importance of extracurricular activities in football in Northeast Oklahoma and the Tulsa area in particular.
Yeah, no, that'll be a big deal. That'll be a huge crowd. So
yeah.
That's great to see. This is your 13th year at Bixby, and going back and looking at your high school career, you played for Coach Baines and then Coach Eck at Northeastern. Worked with Coach Trimble at Jinx, of course. You've had some pretty impressive mentors. What have you kind of learned from each of those guys along the way?
Well, every one of those guys are tremendously different, but every one of them just excellent football coaches. You know, you start with Coach Baines. He's kind of the old school. He's Oklahoma Football Coaches Hall of Fame. And, held us accountable, was very nice, very understanding, but also, had clear lines and expectations. And for me, being an offensive and defensive lineman, Coach Baines was an excellent offensive line coach. And so I felt like I kind of learned some things from him technically that a lot of times you might not from a head coach that helped take me to the next level. And then Coach Eckert, I think the big thing about him is that he's so persistent. He wouldn't take no for an answer, whether it was recruiting, whether it was his assistant coaches. He held everyone to a really high standard. And then, finally worked 10 years with Coach Trimble over at Jinx, cut my teeth there, did my student internship, and he gave me my first job. And the biggest thing about Coach Trimble is the way he treats people. No one ever finishes a conversation or interaction with Coach Trimble that they didn't feel better. And he had a way of bringing people into the program, giving everyone an important role and making everyone feel important.
Yeah, no doubt. Alan was one of the best. What made you think Bixby was the right opportunity after being at Jinx for 10 years? I think it was 10, right?
Well, first off, we played Bixby each year when I was there, and so I saw the type of talent that was coming through. I know Bixby, all the suburban growth in Tulsa was moving down south, and I knew Bixby was a great football and wrestling town, and so I saw I saw kind of the components of a rich football history already, a community that football was extremely important, the ability to fundraise, and an administration that was willing to give us the things we needed to be successful. And so threw my name in the hat there, and came home and told my wife after the first interview, if we're serious about this job, we need to make up our mind right now, because I felt like that went really well. They wanted to play ball. I felt like they liked the things that we had to offer, and so kind of the rest is history.
Yeah, well, Bixby was in 5A for a pretty good period of time. They moved up when they divided the classes, and kind of the school had been kind of in some bad luck situations. They hadn't won a state championship until you flipped the switch. So what was the difference in going from being low end of 6A, where you had to compete against some of the bigger guys? Now you're growing in population and you guys don't lose.
Well, first off, I would say that we were extremely lucky, to have that 6A Division I, Division II split at the right time, because when I took over the job, it was 2010. It was our first year in 6A, and so we were 5-5, made the playoffs, got beat out first round of the playoffs, made the playoffs our second year, just 3-8 was our record, and then 4-6, and then 6-4, and kind of our last year when 6A was all one group, we kind of felt like we had some momentum and had some great young talent, some kids that had been in our middle school program that we had an opportunity to develop. And then the split happened, and we just had a really good football team, and we're able to beat Lawton High in the state championship game, and it was just a really exciting moment for a lot of people in Bixby that had gotten close. Bixby, I think in 2005, 7, and 9 had played for the 5A state championship, but hadn't quite gotten there, and so there were a lot of people that were really excited to finally get over that hump.
Yeah, I bet. You've coached a lot of talented offensive players at Jinx and Bixby. Where do the Presleys, and you've got another one that's going to play for you this year, where do they rank in that group?
As high as any of them, I'd have to say, and I've been fortunate. I've been doing this 23 years to coach some really good football players, but you look at Brennan Presley, who never came off the field, played every snap of corner, covering fade routes. Wide receiver was one of our most productive guys. Return punts, return kicks, never left the field, and was just so productive. And then his brother Braylon, just so electric, and his skill set's different than Brennan's, but the things that he was able to do with the ball in his hands, are just superhuman. As a play caller, if you got 3rd and forever, there aren't a lot of good plays. And,
right.
If we could get the ball in Braylon's hands some form or fashion, a lot of times he can make someone miss. And so, fortunate to get to coach those guys. I think they're responsible for nearly 200 touchdowns in our program, over the last however many years, and we're fortunate we have the youngest brother Braden coming up, who's a freshman, who's going to be a really good football player as well.
Yeah, I was talking to Brendan at Big 12 Media Days, and he said that Braden is going to be the biggest of us all, and probably the best.
Yeah, he's already bigger than Brendan and Braylon. He's about 5'11" now. He's long. Skill set's a little bit different than the other two, just like they're both different, Brendan and Braylon. Braden, is kind of a longer, resembles maybe Brendan a little bit more the way he glides, and so he's still growing into his body right now. But we had a little inter squad passing deal out at our campus the other day, and before July 15th there, and he looked really good. Had some big interceptions and did some good things, and so excited about the way he's going to develop.
Yeah, I can see the smile on your face when you're talking about him. Okay, so I looked on your website and I saw that there's a 225 club. So I think I might know what this is, but I know when you got there were 8 guys in that, and then now there's a lot more. So tell me what that is. Yeah.
Everything we do in our program revolves around developing student athletes, and a big part of that obviously is in the weight room, and kind of the lift we hang our hats on is the full clean. We just feel like there are so many components, kinesthetic awareness, triple extension out of your joints, the ability to change levels. And so we hung our hat on that. And so if you can full clean 225 pounds, you're in Club 225, and that comes with a sticker for your car, a T-shirt, those things. And then most recently, we just had our Night of Champions where the kids get to go out and do it in front of all of our youth players, cheerleaders, parents. We turn the lights on, have the helmet blown up, a DJ out there. And so we create kind of a moment or an event for those guys. And numerous guys hit 225 for the first time. I think we had 54 do that on Night of Champions, and I would expect 20 or 25 more throughout the course of 2022 before the school year is over to hit that. And so, we've gone from 8 back in 2010 to, I think our biggest year so far was 2019 right before COVID, and we had something like 84 guys, all together. And we include other student athletes in our program in that. So if a baseball player, is in there with us in the weight room and doing a really good job and he can hit 225, he can also get in that Club 225. So it's just kind of furthered our strength culture at Bixby, and it's a big part of what we do.
Yeah. I mean, do you credit a lot of that for your success? I mean, you think you can point to that as much as anything?
Without a doubt. Brendan and Braylon Presley's, you got to have those guys. You got to have playmakers to win games, but you also have to have all those guys to fill in the gaps. And those, maybe that 5'10", 240-pound offensive lineman, hey, if he can clean 300 pounds instead of 200 pounds, he's going to be much more effective on Friday night. And you get just that much more out of each of our guys. It's kind of, it's just the power of a little bit more in all these different areas.
Yeah. Where do you stand? There's been a lot of movement in quarterbacks in Tulsa. Guys, you've got one that played at Owasso last year, so that'll be interesting. And then, Jinx loses their quarterback to Union. Is that the norm? Do you think we're going to see a lot more of that, or you just attribute that to 7-on-7? What's the reasoning behind it?
Well, there are a lot of things. I think, number one, what you see happen at the upper levels, whether it's NFL or especially college, we get a little bit of the trickle down at the high school. So with guys moving all over, maybe if something doesn't go their way at one school, they'll transfer to another. Maybe they just transfer because of a particular school or coach or whatever the reason. I think you're just going to see a lot more of it. And then specifically you mentioned a couple quarterbacks. Well, quarterbacks are unique because there's one. I was an offensive lineman, and there were 5 of us, and it didn't really matter if I wasn't good enough to start for Coach Baines in Sand Springs. My dad would just say tough luck.
Right.
But the quarterback position's a little different. You got parents that have invested a ton in lessons. You got parents that have invested a ton in camps and want to give their child an opportunity to play. Or maybe just give their child an opportunity for a change of scenery. So not really sure, but I think it is here to stay, at least for the time being, until we start to see some changes at the college level.
Is Tulsa one of the best high school environments in the country?
I think it really is. We have so many rich traditional games. I mean, especially early in the season, we had talked about our game against Owasso. I think that's going to have the ability to be a really big matchup. And of course, I was part of the Jinx Union game for a lot of years. I know Union and Broken Arrow is a big matchup. I'm from Sand Springs, and a big matchup is Sand Springs and Sapulpa, Wagner, Coweta. I'm thinking of all that. And the tradition of the Tulsa area or Northeast Oklahoma football is so rich. We were fortunate enough the last couple of years to play the border brawl with Mansfield, Texas schools.
You guys did fairly well in those games.
Yeah, but it was still really good football, and football in Texas is really, really good. But, a lot of the school districts are split up. Like, for instance, Mansfield has 5, and so going to a football game isn't quite as an event as, going to a Bixby home game or a game around here, because the school districts are split up and it's not a one-horse town. I know a lot of the schools in Texas maybe that are one-horse towns, it's a different animal. But Tulsa is special in the way that the community supports football, loves football, and are willing to pour into facilities and coaches and the things that it takes to be successful.
All right, if we're going to go out to eat in Bixby, give me a couple places to go.
Well, one of the first places that I really enjoy eating every Friday on game day is the Stepping Stone Cafe.
Okay.
You know, they support us. They help with our offensive line camp, and it's just good home cooking. Mr. Johnson down there, if the doors are open, he's in there. He's in there at 5 a.m. cooking. So that's a great place to eat. And then everybody knows if you're going to get pizza in Tulsa, you need to check out Savastano's. It's classic Chicago deep dish pizza, and Jennifer Savastano or Campbell had a son that played for us, was a kicker a couple of years ago, and she loves seeing players. She loves seeing different folks, and I know my dad goes down there before most of our home games. They've got a great setup, and so there are a lot of great places to name, a lot of places that support us, but those are two not chain places that are kind of unique that I always refer people to if they're looking for something kind of special or unique to Bixby.
I was going to ask you, Savastano's, that's technically Bixby. It's right on the line. It's kind of close, right? But, I mean, if it isn't, it is. Whatever. I love that place. I've been there many times. I don't usually get the deep dish. I get the thin, but it's still amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're just good people in there, and they got a good setup. I mean, everything. Their salad bar is good, so and they're big supporters of Bixby Spartan football. So we certainly try to take care of those that support our kids and support our program.
Loren, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming over. Congratulations on all your success, and wish you more.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
Right, you bet.
Allegiant Marketing Group produces inbound lead generation for our clients through integrated traditional and digital campaigns. We continuously develop new strategies, tactics, and productive efficiencies so you can reach your target market and get a measurable return on investment. This fast-paced world demands for your products and services to be presented at the moment your buyers need them. Targeted and innovative marketing creates your success. Call AMG today, your marketing partner.
I love the T-shirt, by the way.
Right place at the right time, right?
It's fantastic. I got to apologize to you. I missed a party that you had on Friday night. Now, was that a surprise party, or is that did you know?
No, I knew it was. My family was planning that for a while. And
okay.
It'd been on Facebook for a little bit and stuff. So
I didn't know that you got on Facebook.
I am not. That's
okay,
why,
right. But, so there'd be a safe place to hide it.
Well, I'm not going to be the guys, hey, I've got a party, come watch me or come, But, once I got notified, several months ago that I was in, by Jim Dixon, and then my family found out and, they're more elated than anything. And so they wanted to get together with, from – most of the career was Tuttle, but so there was a good representation of people there from Tuttle and Ringling and a couple Marlowe people.
It's a nice place. Listen, so it was my birthday. And
I was going to come,
and it was my birthday, but it got a little late early for me on that day. So I planned on making it out there, and then
no problem, brother.
Dinner with my parents. I knew I'd see you here today. So I want to congratulate you on a well-deserved honor.
Appreciate that.
So I was going to ask you, who's your wife Shelley going to be rooting for when you face your son this year?
I don't even care. It doesn't matter. I'll tell, hey, go root for him. That's fine.
Yeah, so he took over as head coach at Apache, right, and replaced Larry McDaniel, who's been there forever,
right,
long time, and then that's your Week 3 game at home.
Right, yeah.
So
and obviously it was scheduled before Red or Tanner got the job, so and then he gets it, and good for him. I'm happy for him. He'll have a great administration to work for. Larry on staff there and Todd Vale are both August Dietz disciples, and that's what you need is a strong administration like that to be successful.
So you've had a lot of success at Ringling. I wrote your record down here. You're 46-4 the last few years. Is that right?
Yep.
That's pretty good. What do you like about Ringling?
It's the only show in town, man. Football is king down there, and you go to the gym during football season. There's nobody in the gym. There's nobody doing anything but every male that we need. We have 25, 30 kids per class, plus I'm principal 7 through 12 and track coach and everything else. But so we get about every male that we need, and I don't have to – I mean, it's just football heaven down there, man.
Right. You've been on a good run of success. That was a tough one last year in the finals. I know that you get some weird calls in the game, some weird plays that happened. But if you guys played for another 4 quarters, it might have been even closer.
Yeah, or just another 10 minutes. That one was crucial where the ball, when Julius intercepts or one over the ball, and they call it. Everything's changed. The chains are moved, and then the guy starts hollering on the sideline, and then no referee saw the play. So when it's like holding or anything else. If it doesn't, you don't see it, it never happens. But I think it was just a muff thing, and the opposing coach talked him into it, and Mr. Homeboy up in running the Scantron kept playing it back and forth, and the officials are not supposed to do that in high school.
I was calling the game, and I couldn't tell what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it was difficult to see, but that was really
They said it was an incomplete pass, but it wasn't. It was just a muff jet sweep handoff.
Yeah. That was a freak play. That was interesting. Well, I remember first talking to you when I was doing my first magazine in '95, and you poor mouthed your team to me at Tuttle, so I ranked you down in the district, and I found out pretty quickly that you needed to be ranked mostly near the top all the time.
I'm more of a Lou Holtz type guy when it comes to that than Bob Stoops. No offense to Bob Stoops, but I'm gonna tell you how good I think we are. I'd rather give accolades to our opponents and let us try to be the underdog and try to be overlooked.
What's different today in 2022 than it was in 1993?
As far as what? Everything?
Just schemes. I mean, defense.
Schemes. It's really tough because it's everything's wide open now, and of course, some people these days you'll line up and run against the flex bone. Somebody's running Air Force stuff, or you might get some old timers that you don't have to be an old timer, but just line up in the eye or the 3-back wishbone and power it at you. But everybody, the trend these days is to spread it out and the fast break offenses, and no huddles and all that. So you really defensively, in my opinion, you really have to be on your toes and be able to defend that.
All right, how many grandkids do you have now?
4 and 1 on the way.
Okay, but that number can be going up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. We're Catholic, man. We're going to keep on. Hopefully they'll keep making good babies and putting good people on the earth.
Now, your wife bailed me out one time on the radio in a significant way, so we have to tell this story. Is that early on, I had not changed a diaper from when my son was born, which is not this kicks me out of all data of the year. But your wife called in, and you had 5, right?
Yes.
And you had
I have 6 now.
You had 5. I think it was 5 at the time.
Okay.
5 at the time, and you had not changed diapers. And she said she was perfectly okay with that because you had your job, you did well, you did your things, and that was some of her responsibilities. Now, it makes me, as a more mature person now at my age, I think I probably looked pretty crappy back then at the time. But do you change your grandkids' diapers?
I have not had the opportunity to do that yet. I mean, I would welcome that opportunity, but I just there's a lot more people in front of me in line to wanting to do that.
Okay.
And on my own, I think that Shelly is a saint and the best person that I've ever met and stuff, but I think it's a little bit embellished as far as not ever changing a diaper. But
right.
She just kind of, was around at the time, and if she's a little bit closer and perhaps her smell is better than mine or something.
No, I think that's fair. Let's go back to your time at Tuttle. You coached Jason White. I mean, a Heisman Trophy winner. You guys had a lot of success there. I mean, that had to be kind of a special thrill to see his career develop after that.
No doubt. We knew he was going to be a special guy. In '95 when you said you were on the scene, we had Jeff Douglas, one of the best option quarterbacks that I've ever seen or ever able to coach, and we were able to adapt everything we did, copying Nebraska stuff and Syracuse freeze option stuff. And then when we knew Jason was sitting in the wings there, and I had him in 5th grade, and man, he was a man among boys then. So he could throw a ball a long way and kick a long way, and we just knew he was going to be a special guy. So at that time we used to go to Tulsa all the time, Tulsa team camp, and we went up there with David Rader and copied all their stuff they were doing, and they were copying Purdue stuff. Who was winging around at that time of the season, that time period anyway.
Right. All right. I got to see your phone. Every time I text you, it's a green text. I mean, like, is that a flip phone?
This is it's pretty close.
Oh no, that's not a flip phone.
It's an Android.
That's a good phone.
It kind of looks decent, but it's
hey, Kent
really
Jackson.
Slow.
Kent Jackson at Anadarko, he could not send me a schedule this year because he has a flip phone, and that's a legit true story. So I'm proud of you. That's 21st century stuff, right there.
Well, I don't know about that, but it gets the job done. I've mastered the Android as much as I can.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff that you say, like you said.
I sent you location.
It said location. I'm like, what is that? Like, it doesn't like.
You know what I'm saying? I know. I totally get it.
It didn't have the radar or anything like that on there for me to.
Right.
I didn't know how to deal with that.
Sometimes it's just easy to call. I should have done that. What's this week been like for you going in the Hall of Fame? It's had to be the reception.
The Friday night thing, man. There was 300 or 400 people there at that deal. I was so humbled and by that and the people that came up, old players. coached track for 20-something years too. Had girl track athletes, managers, parents, boosters. Man, it's just so humbling. And then to hear them to say, it's like Trey Sharp and family and Big Bill, tell me what I've meant to them and a lot of players, and it's so humbling because you don't really fully appreciate that when you're doing this job. You're thinking more about schemes and winning games, but then again, you're instilling discipline and accountability and a work ethic and and glory to God and humility and chivalry and all those things, and then when you look back and some of those things really took on some of those kids, actually they're more important than winning games. And these dudes that are working these days and say, hey, Coach, I get up out of bed every day because I was taught to work hard. And I think, wow, it's just it's very humbling and satisfying, gratifying,
Yeah, that's good. Tell me, where's a good place to eat in Ringling?
There's a barbecue place in town, and if you ask me to say what it is, Mud Creek Barbecue.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
And there used to be a little Mexican spot in town, Mexican food spot. I cannot tell you. I think it might have burned down, but Mud Creek Barbecue, you can't go wrong.
Okay.
That's the place.
All right, I like that.
We make sure we give our officials Mud Creek Barbecue before the game or at halftime so that they'll,
Trey Sharp's fish fry is also pretty good, right?
No doubt. Yeah. Well, his is the little creatures.
Crawdads?
Crawdads, yeah.
Yeah. They got a lot of everything fried out there.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So, you're one of my favorites. You're in my Hall of Fame.
I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Phil.
It's been a long time.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for dropping by.